Dive. Anyway, okay, we're live. Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome to Discussing Tabletop for February 10th, 2019. It's our 65th episode. Hello again. Once again, we have with me today Diamond Wyrm and Joe. So hello to the folks, people.
Hello, folks.
Anyway, so today we're going to be diving into another interesting news based upon the tabletop world out there and what's been going on in tabletop releases. So first off, we're going to talk about the Munchkin CCG in quotations release, because it's sort of released yet not released, but we'll talk about the game more.
It's horrible.
We'll then talk about Team Play, a new card game that's very interesting because it does focus on team play. 13 Clues, somewhere in between Sherlock Holmes and Sherlock Clue. And then I want to talk a little bit about the Pokemon, the trading card game, and how it links up with the games lately and how that compares to overall the game. So we'll dive into that, and don't shake your head at me. Don't shake your head at me.
You can dive into it all you want. I have no comment on it.
Anyway, all right. So let's start with Munchkin the CCG. Now we've talked a few times, and now pseudo released because according to Steve Jackson Games, but according to anywhere you could try to purchase it,
including the Munchkin CCG site itself, it's harder still.
You can find a store, so maybe it's out in some places. I don't know. But season 1 of products is basically mostly out.
Which consists of just 5 whole whopping products.
I thought it was 4.
Well, no, because there's the 2 booster packs that are coming out for season 1. Larg and Fashion Furious.
They're coming out in August, though.
Oh, okay, then it's just the 3.
No, but it's also the basic booster packs are coming out.
Oh, okay, I didn't see that.
Yeah, they have a basic booster pack. So it's a Ranger Warrior starter set, a Bard and Wizard starter set, a Cleric and Thief starter set, and then just booster packs. Which I think we complained about the booster pack before, because you get less than certain other. I mean, granted, like Yu-Gi-Oh, just you get like 3 cards for like $3 or something. I don't know. It's terrible price, but this is 12 cards for $4, which is still it's worse price than Magic, which is technically 15 cards plus some.
Yeah.
And they're like, one of the cards will be rare, or even rarer. Woo.
Well, the thing is though, if you're trying to start a new CCG craze, maybe you should start cheaper than your competitors are.
Awesome. Yeah, especially the well-developed ones.
Yeah. And it's a 2-player CCG, which is I think a hard market to get into, because granted, yes, majority of game you get in any CCG, especially when you get in the tournament side, is to be 2-player, but a lot of the casuals I've seen it ends up being multiplayer. Casual Magic just sort of ends up that way. If you've got more than 2 people, you're gonna get it more than a 2-player game.
Yeah, and it's nice to have that option. With this, you don't.
Yeah, you don't get the casual play option at all. So, and they don't have a lot of information about their booster pack anyway. They're just like hundreds of cards that aren't in the starter sets. Okay.
I'd like to see what these cards are, please.
Like some information about them, yeah.
Hundreds. It might need to say hundreds of cards that should have been in the starter sets.
God.
Because we played it.
By the starter sets, and like
they're horribly unbalanced.
They were unbalanced. The Bard was not balanced with the Ranger at all. I was in a super uphill battle against you the entire time. It was I thought it was an interesting concept for the deck, but it just was difficult to get any kind of ground against you, unfortunately.
And how the gameplay is, the order, it's weird.
Yeah. So
it just didn't seem intuitive at all.
now, we can't say that they haven't changed a few things around in the past couple of months, because they could, that was testing it out.
Yes.
And they could have refined a few things since then. But more than likely, the rules are going to be pretty much the same, unfortunately.
Well, they have a how to play section, which I'm looking over right now. Quick start guide.
Yay!
I will put the link in the chat.
Sounds good. We'll see if they still have that stupid acronym.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
My God, it was so dumb.
And totally not really useful.
No. It wasn't really.
Okay. Turn phases. Let's see. God, this PDF stinks.
They still have zapping and flipping and all that, and stashing and all that crap.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't complain too much, I can't bust it completely, that I don't want to do. I don't want to be too mean to the entire game without actually diving into it just a little bit again and talking a little bit about it. Having your own terms, fine thing. That's never a problem. We can't bust it on that. So,
No, it does look like they got rid of the acronym.
Or at least they're not mentioning it in the rules.
They're not mentioning it in the rules, at least.
That's good. I mean, the acronym was silly and hard to remember, and it made it more confusing.
Yeah, I mean, silly's fine. It's Munchkin, but if it's not actually helpful...
Yeah. It's like Magic. There's a lot of... there's not many phases to Magic, but there's enough phases that you have to remember it, because it's untap, upkeep, draw, main phase, end phase. That's not a lot of phases. Now, that's half of what we had for Munchkin. But you still have to get an idea of that. You have to go untap, upkeep, draw. It's that sort of little orders like that you kind of have... Because I remember in the early days...
Especially with certain cards, it was very important.
Yeah. I remember in the early days where you didn't have to worry about a lot about those things, that there was always a little bit confusion in a lot of these things. And certain things with the turn order. And granted, they have refined that down, but just playing through it enough gets you a hold of it. That's what the point is. The more you play, the more you get an understanding of these things. But
right.
I don't know. I'm feeling doubtful about it as usual.
They have draft tournament rules.
Draft rules? Great.
Draft tournaments, yeah.
I don't know. There's part of me that wants to say, cool, good for them. Making a CCG is a hard thing. But there's other parts of me that are like, what are you doing, Steve Jackson Games? You have a niche, and you're going to something else.
Yeah, it was already a semi-collectible.
Yeah, that's the thing, they had a semi-collectible card game. They're probably one of the earlier semi-collectibles. I don't know if they pioneered it, but they're one of the first ones I saw doing the small booster packs. Yeah. Which, if you see now, Fantasy Flight does billions of those small booster packs for their things. Like Netrunner. You can get a whole crap load of those little booster packs for Netrunner, or their Game of Thrones, or their Arkham Horror card games.
Yeah.
Which...
I really do hate how Skype keeps resetting my camera controls over to auto controls.
That's kind of hateful.
That's annoying.
Yeah. No, I should stop flashing in and out in different colors and brightness.
Yay! Don't flash us.
The
tournament's 20 minutes.
Okay. Well, they are saying for gameplay it's going to be 20 minutes. The 20 to 40 minutes, 10 plus age. So,
well, you're given a 20-minute time limit on the tournament.
I mean, it's okay. Their phases they've seemed to simplify to warm up, munchkining, and cool down.
Yeah,
yeah, which is good because it was really convoluted before.
Well, no, it technically is still as convoluted because if you look at the warm-up phase,
they have multiple things.
Yeah,
there's but the nice thing about it is that, in this order. Okay, never mind. Because I was about to say, well, if they, they don't care about the order and you just need to do all this stuff in one phase, that's not a problem.
You still have to care about the order.
Yeah. And those are that was like I remember the majority of the acronym was all of that crap. It was like it's like food something or other. You know?
I forget what it exactly was. It was like FUUDPP.
It's FURUD were the first part of it, and then there was more, but I can't remember. But it was like
PSPSPS.
See?
Well, no, they didn't do all every single one they're mentioning there, but it was.
I just was assuming.
Yeah,
you could assume,
unfortunately.
But it was part of the warm-up phase. It was just like the entire thing they had an acronym for. And the thing is...
Also, their board is so many... There's so many little things. Horde, stash, hero, purse, deck, discard...
But there's no actual board, though. That's just how they suggest set it up.
Yeah.
I understand that, but the fact that there are this many places to place things...
There should be a board.
Yeah.
Kind of like how in the starter sets for Yu-Gi-Oh back in the day, they came with that little plastic, that little paper mat. It was super helpful.
That would actually be useful for something like this because with it being so new.
In my Yu-Gi-Oh deck, I kept that thing because it was useful just to place out, just so you had it was organized.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, I think there's a level of complexity that's hidden here, and that's the unfortunate part about it. Like, the warm-up phase, where you're supposed to do all that in order, and it's technically 5 little things, that's technically 5 little phases. That's, in Magic, that would be the untap, upkeep, draw, which is technically, they're all just their own phases in Magic. So it's like, oh, Magic has 5 phases. Yeah, Munchkin might only have 3, but that's only because they took 5 other phases and put them into a single phase. And then they've got the board, which is, like, crazy complex. It's like most games have usually like discard, draw, and then something set up in front of you. And
I mean, if you really want to get down to it, they have 8 phases.
Yeah.
Because Munchkining is one phase, really. It's just you can do a lot of things during that phase.
Yeah.
But you have 5 things for warm up and 2 things for cooldown.
And both of the cooldown ones are important, so they are their own things.
Yeah.
It's deceptively complex is what I like to call this game, unfortunately.
Well, and the disappointing part about that is, in my opinion, is that Munchkin, the normal Munchkin game, is straightforward, easy to pick up and play.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lot more convoluted.
I think they wanted to make something unique, which isn't a bad thing. I'm not going to bust them because they are a very different kind of CCG than the others I've seen. Now, granted, there might be a couple out there that are similar to this, and I haven't seen every CCG, but for a good chunk of the ones I have seen, they don't have something like this per se,
Right.
And I'll be honest, at this point in time, Yu-Gi-Oh is more convoluted than this.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yu-Gi-Oh has gotten really complicated with their weird, like, magic monster card thing, and their linking, and other stuff which you can do.
Well,
fusions, and it's like they have these separate spots for them all. They had to, update their mats, and it's just kind of like...
Yeah.
But they built it over time, so it's like people who knew the base game could add on to it without a problem.
Right, and that's the big difference. It's okay to become more complex as you go along, but if you start out overly complex...
Yeah.
It's going to make people look at it and go, do I really want to learn this?
Yeah. It's like using... Well, there are 2 examples I want to give here. First off, Card Fight Vanguard, which I do know a little bit because I used to watch the anime. That's the only reason I knew about it before I knew it was an actual card game. That got more complex too. And it has a lot of similar things to Yu-Gi-Oh! So I think the 2 of them have been competing in Japan for insanity.
Rob, I could see that.
Yeah. Adding insanity. The other thing I was going to say is, if you really look at Magic, it's incredibly complex. The fact is, though, if I was to take one set and try to teach someone with that single set, it probably is not that bad. It's just as soon as we begin adding in everything else that's out there in Magic, because then there's rules upon rules and how things interact, that there's a lot of out there. When you
Right,
go
the
the
complexity of Magic is the cards themselves.
Yeah.
Meaning, the more cards you want to learn, the more complex it gets. But you can build around a single concept that makes it a lot more straightforward.
Exactly. And I think that's something that you probably could still do. Like, even in Yu-Gi-Oh!, I'm sure you could still keep to that simplicity, or Card Fight Vanguard, you know? This starts out with a level of complexity to it that it's a danger to it as the game.
Right.
Not to mention, they built cheating into the system, which I understand Munchkin, but at the same time, that is a rather complex concept to include in a game like this.
Yeah. It really is. It's... I think the best way to say it is they've tried to recapture the essence that is Munchkin in a CCG, and unfortunately, you can't do it.
I think you could. I just think that, like Munchkin, you know, the cheat cards are cheat cards. They're part of the game. And I feel like they actually... And not to, see, the complexity of Munchkin is also the cards. It does basically what, you know, a lot of these other games do. But in this, they're trying to build it all into the system.
Yeah. And a lot of times for Munchkin, even if you're not using the cheat cards, just cheating in general, as long as no one catches you on it, it's just like, oh. And even then, it's just you backpedal. So it's like, oh, I couldn't have played this equipment. Or, oh, I couldn't have been using this equipment. Or, oh, I have too many cards in my hand. You know, stuff like that. That, you know, it always gets corrected just by the people in general. You know, it's never like, you know, oh, you're cheating, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's just like, oh, you know, you always... That's what, for me, for always been Munchkin. It's like, oh, it was just a mistake. Now, granted, I could have done that mistake on purpose, but, you know, and as long as I don't keep it up, you know, you gotta be sneaky about it. It's like, play that, add that bonus in, that maybe I can't have that bonus. But, I don't know. I think the other thing is that I wasn't really say about it is the CCG market doesn't exist the same way it did. We had the huge renaissance originally with Magic, which there was a lot of CCGs and a lot of dead CCGs. Then we've had some steady ones throughout that entire time. But I've been looking at, like, when you look at CCGs that came out, not many come out anymore. A few a year. So it's a really tough market to get into. The established ones are there. New ones have a trouble getting into there. They need something to, like, catch on with people. And I don't know if this has it.
Yeah. In my opinion, part of the issue, or like, I actually think that this is actually a good time for new CCGs to come out with the whole thing of like Kickstarters and, you know, like, and a lot of, you can get a lot of press without a lot of power, you know? And because of that, I think it actually can make small CCGs thrive if someone wants to start one up. But I just think, yeah, again, they need to make a good one. I mean, there's a reason CCGs die a lot. There's a reason there's only a couple really solid ones.
Oh my god, yeah. As you know, which I have to get back to on my YouTube side, my series where I talk about some, like, older CCGs. When you look at some of them, and you can see why they died. You know, that people have tried interesting things, but you need a little bit to definitely catch on. And
the CCGs need a simplicity of rules, complexity of options, simplicity of readability, but like complexity of effects.
Yeah.
You know, it's like this really hard balance between these two sides of, you want to make it really complex to make it interesting, but really simple so it's learnable.
Yeah.
And playable.
Yeah. It's like what you could say. Things like, you know, the basics is like, you know, I understand the basics of Yu-Gi-Oh! When I only watch some of the anime. You know, it's easily to pick up. Magic, I learned very easily.
Even though they cheat all the time in the anime.
No, they cheat all the time in the anime. You know, Magic is relatively simple to pick up. Granted, each of these has very huge complexities. And yeah, like as you're saying, like Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic, they've added their complexity with new cards and new abilities and stuff. And, You know.
To be fair, I think if I remember correctly, Yu-Gi-Oh didn't actually start their card game till they had actually done the series for a little while.
Yeah, well, there was a manga originally, I think, too.
Yeah, it was originally a manga, and season 0 of the manga has nothing to do with card games.
Yeah.
It became a thing. I don't actually know why. I've never looked into the history of this, but it was not originally conceptualized for a card game.
And I'm surprised they
Which
still...
is why they cheat all the time.
Well, I'm surprised, like, it became an anime, it's become a card game, and they still do some of the animes and weird seasons and stuff. They've changed, like, characters and main things as far as I know, and, I don't know where they're going with that. Same kind of like the Card Fight Vanguard. I always notice the anime keeps going, but it was sort of like one of those ones that it was a little interesting at the beginning, but then it was just like, nah, you're too much for me. I'm gone. I don't mind a card-based show. It's just you have to catch me. But I'm getting a little off topic here,
Yeah.
Getting back to Munchkin, though, I mean, I wish them luck, but it's just not the game that I would have wanted with Munchkin, I think is what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like they just tried to stitch together pieces from both Munchkin and other CCGs. Like the whole zap, unzap thing. It's like, okay... It's basically, Magic's tap, untap, or whatever.
Well, I think people are worried about Magic because, it is a word that they use, and technically it shouldn't be something copyrighted, but it could be,
Yeah.
Because it seems like a simple term, and yes, coming up with your own terms. I don't mind that ever. That's one of those things. It's like, I think Vampire, the Vampire, the Eternal Struggle, because they're sort of in existence, yet sort of not. They just updated their rules to get rid of tapping and untapping because they're no longer connected with wizards anyway. Also, so I can't remember what word they're using for it, but it's like that's one of those CCGs that died yet hasn't died, because there's a list of those too. Do they still get?
Yeah.
They still get support by some people out there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, but I feel like it's funny because I feel like calling it zap unzap is my issue, is that it feels like it's trying to take some of that spark from Magic.
Yeah.
Like you could easily say play activation phase, activate the card, turn it sideways to show that you've activated or something, instead of saying zap unzap.
But at the same time, the whole thing with a lot of Steve Jackson games, especially Munchkin, is ripping on other games.
Yeah, so
That's
ripping on
true,
other
actually.
Fun.
That's a good point.
Which they want to rip on the other CCGs. I know it, but the thing is, they could have done that a lot easier. Zapped and unzapped seems to be just call it like turned or unturned. I mean, really, that would have been the simplest. It would have busted on Magic a little bit because what the is tapped,
Yeah.
Why is it tapped? It's turned or unturned,
Right.
Yeah. And like it's kind of like they're trying to, I feel like they're ripping on it, but they're trying too hard to be it at the same time.
Yes. Oh.
With that. And even so with their whole, I feel like I'm kind of surprised they went with the whole levels and gold thing, where it's just like why don't you just kind of try and simplify that a little bit instead of trying to like
Yeah. Yeah.
And honestly, the levels aren't that big of a deal.
The levels are not, because, like health is in every CCG that I know of.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like but it's like the fact that they use levels and gold, it's like, wait,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what the gold is supposed to do. Like, I can't quite
The
figure that out.
gold is
from
how
a quick
you
look.
buy cards. Be able to play cards. It's like your mana.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's equal to your level, so you get more each turn. Each and every turn, you keep getting more and more. And the thing is, though, the important thing about this, which I remember, you can't keep it in between turns. So
No,
spend
you
it all
lose
or
your
lose it
gold.
all.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, isn't necessarily a terrible thing. It does sort
No,
of...
that's not. I've seen games that do that fine.
Yeah, it sort of forces you to, like, you escalate your plans each turn, but you always have to, like, play, use what you can. But, I don't know. I just feel like they're not... They could be successful. I can see it possibly being successful, and I can see some people liking it, but I'm not sure if they're going to be as successful as they want to be. I'm not
I
seeing
feel
this...
like they should have played. It's funny because I just feel like they should have played off their game a whole lot more.
Yes, I agree. I do not see them taking Steam away from Magic. I do not see them taking Steam from games like Yu-Gi-Oh! or Pokemon or Card Fight Vanguard. And there's a third one which I can never remember the name, or fifth one. There's another game I can never remember the name of that I've tried out before, which is a decently sized CCG right now. And God, I'm going to forget it completely forever. Anyway, but I can't see them still overcoming any of these.
No.
I could see someone that's going to be playing one of those maybe trying it out, but sticking with it. It's like for me, I've tried a lot of CCGs. I have cards for a whole bunch of CCGs. I've really only stuck with Magic.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I have Star Trek cards, but I haven't played a lot of it.
Yeah.
Well, I think part of that was it never really caught on either, so there wasn't a lot of people to play with.
Yeah, the Star Trek CCG, it went on for a while. It's actually surprisingly sticked around for quite a long time. It had a second edition, which revamped the rules completely.
Right.
But the fact is, what? Go ahead.
Just a quick search is it says Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Card Fight Vanguard, Star Wars, Legend of the Five Rings.
Those are the Okay, the Legend of the Five Rings, the original CCG, was a pretty big one, and it just ended. I know I looked it up. It ended relatively recently in the last decade. Well, less 5 years, I think. And now it's it's not collectible card game. It's like something else, or trading card game. It's because it's not randomized, but there's
it's like a semi-collectible now.
Yeah, semi-collectible. That's right. And yeah, I do remember there was a Star Trek one, and I can't remember the other at the moment, because I'm forgetful. But
Bakugan?
Bakugan? I've never tried Bakugan.
I don't know.
Heard of it.
I've heard of it.
I'm just looking at a list of CCGs, just trying to figure out what's... There's also this one called BattleTech. I haven't heard of that before.
Yeah. By year. I want to give me by year. That's the only thing, is you have to sort through the list by year. Oh, jeez. Good for Wizards of the Coast that they're putting out one this year. They're putting out apparently a Transformers CCG this year.
Is it more than meets the eye?
I can only hope. But anyway, yes.
Think we've ragged on Steve Jackson enough?
Yeah, I think we can continue now.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Steve Jackson Games. We like some of your stuff, but you do some really shady, crappy things that we just do not like.
I don't even think this is shady and crappy. Let me phrase that. I don't think this is shady. It's just crappy.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll give you that this is only crappy, but I do think some of their Kickstarters are a little too shady.
I would agree with this.
Yeah.
But this itself...
Yes.
It's just, I feel like it should have had a lot more plan time.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I just think they didn't need to get into this market.
No, I also agree on that one. This is a market they did not really need to dive into, and they did. So, whatever. Good for them, question mark.
Well, considering how bloated Munchkin itself is getting... Maybe that's why they did it. They're like, well, let's go into another direction because we're kind of overexpanded ourselves. I mean, there, the light versions that started showing the desperation there.
Mm-hmm. No, and yeah, I've talked about some of those that are yeah, this is a little too much.
I'll be honest. I actually think it was a good idea in concept because I think they needed to expand into something other than Munchkin. Because Munchkin, I agree, was getting very convoluted. And so they needed, I think, an outlet for the Munchkin fans that wanted more.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think they should have stuck a lot more to Munchkin and just altered Munchkin to be a CCG with very Munchkinized rules. Rather than trying to be like a CCG that pays homage to Munchkin and makes fun of other CCGs.
Yeah, I'll agree. Definitely. All right, why don't we move on though, because we do have some more topics to cover, and this was an interesting one to dive into. Definitely, I want to talk a little bit about team games and team play. So Team Play is a new card game. It's 2-player teams trying to work together to basically accomplish small goals. It's done by WizKids. It's $20, so not a bad price for 110 cards for something that you can do in groups. Now, the interesting thing about it is basically you're working as teams to accomplish missions, but they do have rules for in case you don't have even number of players, that you can have basically like 2 pairs of, or what is it? You can have more players on certain teams and stuff like that. You know, you can have. So it's not just, you know, restricted, unfortunately, to that, which I like about that. For something that's based around a normally 2-player team game, that's actually really helpful, because it's like, okay, we got 5 people. We can't play this now. Oh, wait, we can. Why aren't you letting me go to the rules just in case?
It's not letting me either on the WizKids site.
Well, WizKids, whatever. We'll work without that. But basically, you're trying to strive.
You can click on buy local, but you can't click on rules.
Apparently, you're trying to get the most points to accomplish basically mission cards, which unfortunately the mission cards are a little like iffy how they're described. They say these cards require various combinations of number cards, getting 2 pairs of uneven cards, or having 3 low numbers, or 5 consecutive red numbers, because it looks like each player not only will have the missions, but you'll have hands of cards, basically.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the very bottom and the bottom right, the gallery.
Yeah.
They have all the cards laid out, or a bunch of the cards laid out, and they have some of the mission cards like number plus number equals number.
Yeah, and so you have to have those numbers in your hand. Yeah. So
some are colorless, some are colored.
So it's basically 110 playing cards that you're going to have, because it's like 1 to 8 playing cards, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's a very simplistic game in the way you're playing it. And it's draw cards, complete missions, score points. But it's, I guess it's you're working together with a partner, and you have to kind of read each other, because that's the important thing it kind of talks about. It's you, I don't think, can discuss what each player is playing. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to be able to sort of like hint at each other, you know, or something like that. Because you're supposed to do it smart and fast, you know.
Right.
I think there's a level of, like, you know, non-verbal communication that is needed, which I like. That's why I thought this was very interesting, because it kind of hints at that you need a little bit more than just like, oh, you know, I have a 5, you know, I can play a 5. Oh, well, I have a 5 too. Well, you're not really saying this. If you're not saying stuff like that, then you're like just figuring that out together somehow, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What else can I say about it? Yeah, they do have odd count version rules for players. Players who have a large hand count but cannot pass card. Okay. Okay, so you actually play as a team of 1. You have a larger hand, but you can't, like, pass cards or anything like that. So the goals remain the same. So you're kind of, like, stuck with certain things. So I'm guessing there's card passing mechanics that help out also. There's probably a lot of stuff that makes it a very interesting and dynamic game. Definitely. And I like the concept of team-based games, definitely. I mean, we get them big with party games, but I feel this is less party gamey and more just like a card game that has teams, which is more interesting, you know? Like a big thing like Cranium, you're going to have big teams. But would you bring out, like, a game like Red Dragon Inn? You don't have teams in that. What if you, well, you know, bring in a card game and having teams? Cool. Neat.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about this game, and how, you know, is the team-based play that they're bringing, is this, like, going to be... Are we bringing a good research, like bringing kind of like a hint of some things like this? Because I would like to see more games that have different kind of teams and stuff. Can we see a lot more of these than like something this simple? You know, granted, like adding it into a more complex game, sure, maybe, but I'm not talking like cooperative. I'm talking like team competitive.
Yeah, I mean, Team competitive, I don't see why not. I think there are. Let me think. Are there any other games that have that kind
I'm
of?
sure there are
already?
some, but I'm not sure how many. That's the kind of thing I'm like, how many would we actually see?
Well, a lot of party games are like Cranium.
Yeah. But party games always feel like a party game. You know, that's one of those things about it. It has a different feel than your average card game or board game.
True.
And you definitely get that feel when you're playing it. And I think that's a something that's obvious.
I was just looking at. I'm like in the room of my house where all the board. The closet in my room is where all the board. My new room is where all the board games my family has kept. So I was just looking at them, trying to see if there's any like good team games that I have. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I know lots of games that have teamwork, but normally it's like all or nothing, or like, you know, you have something like Betrayal or Dead of Winter.
I can think of one.
Trader. What do you got?
The one fighting game I have, we never use the team variant rules, but the Wild West one.
Oh, like, was it Bang or something?
It's not Bang. I can't think of it now.
But I know what you're talking about. It's another one of those wet games like Bang. It's under the
High
same
Noon Saloon.
High Noon Saloon, because I think it's done by the same company that does Bang. I'm pretty sure, because they are similar in ways. But no, High Noon Saloon. Yeah, okay, there is team variant play. But the thing is, when you think about that, is like that would be like saying, you know, team play has single player variant play. You know, it's when you have like a single person on the odd man out in that, sure, cool. But it's made to be more team-based. High Noon Saloon, I think it's made to be more single-player, and you can play it team-based.
Yeah, well, High Noon Saloon has specific cards that are added in for team play.
Yes. They have a couple extra things that you can play at team play, but I don't feel like it's as based around it, you know?
No, I mean, I've looked through the rules. They're pretty good to make a team-based game, but it's not its main focus.
Yeah. The main focus is the game that you already are playing. It's just like, oh, hey, we have a variant, which I like variants. I'm never going to complain about variants, and having like a team-based variant in something, that's awesome. But, you know, I don't think, again, we get as many games that are straight up team-based, you know, that's the focus of it.
Mm-hmm. True.
You know, unless, again, we go party game, which is, a party game has, yeah, that's, you know, your big craniums, your big hooplas, and your charades. It's basically where it came from, you know, like charades or Pictionary or something. Which then you win a lot of people at that point in time anyway. So.
Right.
Mage Wars.
Mage Wars.
It is 1v1, but they have rules for 2v2.
Okay, cool. And that's again, I think that's more like a variant version of it, which isn't bad, and they probably have really good rules and ways of adapting it, just like, you know, High Noon Saloon has extra cards for team play. It's just that, you know, it's another one that you can play either way. And, you know, I think it's because, you know, this is a very cost-effective game. It's only $20. They don't have to worry a lot about having, you know, problems with it. You know, it's like, oh, we can pick this up for when we're doing 2-player teams. It's not like some of the bigger games where it's like, oh, 1 to 5 or like you know, 2 to 5 players. You know, okay, we can play it no matter what. You know, I think it definitely has limitations for one thing, because it's similar to when you have 2-player games. This is a minimum 3-player game. You know. Not that there aren't some of those, but still, it's probably more fun when you get the 4 players anyway. You know, you probably don't want as many single. You probably want to try to avoid the single player groups. I'm just assuming. Not that you can't play with it, but it's probably not as good, entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Right, it's not what it's designed for.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I would like to see more games that are specifically made like this, that are just true team games, but because it's a different feel, and not a party one, I mean, you know, too. But I don't know how many we'll see. Because I guess I can see from my own like thought patterns here that it's probably not going to be as big a seller. This one, they kept the price down. They kept it simple. Hey, you know, that's attractive to people just for impulse. I'm going to get a board game buys, you know, or I'm going to get this with my other board game because heck, maybe we'll play it. I've been there. I've had like shopping like that, you know. So, all right. Do you have anything else to kind of dive into this since I've kind of gone through my thought patterns on it?
Not me.
Okay. Why don't we move on, though, and I do want to talk a little bit about 13 Clues. All right, so 13 Clues. Just talk about it a little bit. It is a new board game dubbed by Come On Games. They're very Steve Jackson that they're saying it's sort of like released yet not released as usual, you know?
Yeah.
Because
it's saying coming soon.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're like, it's available in your FLGS. Oh my god, I sometimes remember that. I cannot remember it right now. It's something game store. Dang. I'm bad with abbreviations sometimes. Anyway, it's basically available at your local game store. They say it in their news article, while if you look on their actual like product, it's like coming soon.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of things are doing that nowadays in an attempt to make local game stores more reasonable and more like, because these local game stores are very important to games because it's a place for people to go to find groups to, you know, play these games, and so they want to keep these things alive, so they make these special deals forcing people to go to these stores. So I'm not against that, honestly. I think it's a good idea.
Oh, and it's a great place because... Well, go ahead.
Yeah, and so it's like, and if you want it, don't want to go to a place, just wait. Yeah. You know, it's usually only like a week.
Plus, you might be able to demo the game there.
That's what I was going to talk about. Yeah, that a lot of stores will have demos of the game too, which are good. Anyway, so diving into what we want to talk about this is like when I'm looking at it, it's seemingly taking somewhere in between Clue and like Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Clue.
Effectively, it's
Sherlock Clones.
Yeah. Sherlock Holmes. Players are taking the role of master detectives. Basically, Scotland Yard is overrun with cases, and they're relying on you for help. Each of you has to kind of interpret clues and solve cases before your competition. So that's the thing is, every player has their own crime they're trying to solve, which is I thought was an interesting thing. So it's effectively like, you know, I'm trying to solve one, my opponent's trying to solve one, you know. And you're trying to identify the culprit responsible for the crime, the location, and the weapon. Very Clue. You know, who did it, where, with what. You get your own little hiding screen, manufactured token. Yeah, it's got the pencils. And your trusty casebook to record your findings.
Mm-hmm. And you're trying to figure out who did it, with what, and where.
Yeah, I know. It's Clue. It's Clue.
It was the Duke
with the sword in the museum.
I think it was the Duke in the theater with the crossbow.
Now, there are some, like, other things about it. Like, their locations could be indoors or outdoors. People could be male or female. Weapons can be up close or ranged. And these are helpful details, basically, for solving the case. And you're dealt one card from each deck and then 2 random cards. And the leftovers form a face-down secret informant cards at the center of the table. You can basically select elements of the crime for the person to your left. So, effectively, each person chooses... Like, I will choose the 3 things for the crime for my person to the left. You know? And that's an interesting component of it. You know? It's like, I'm like, it's going to be this place with this person with this item. And I'm doing it from my hand of 5 cards. Which I'll have... What?
My brain went, it's the Neanderthal with the ray gun in the TARDIS.
Wow. That's a good.
It totally was. You got it right. But what you missed was the lizard man helped him.
Oh, that lizard man! That jerk. Should have known he would have assisted in this one. So on your turn, you investigate or you make accusations. Both cost you a magnifying glass token, which you have, which you have to spend all these per round. You question witness, like in a real investigation, come into play, and you pay rival sleuths one of your magnifying glass tokens to ask them questions about cards that they have. You can like ask. There's a whole lot of questions you can ask, and more to that. Just to help you kind of piece together the information and figure things out.
Yeah, I read through a review on this game, and one of the things they brought up is that there is no penalty for guessing. So if it does waste your turn, but
you can just guess every turn if you want it.
If you wanted to. And someone said they actually won doing this.
I'm sure you can, because it's like it's not a bad technique on its own.
But I think other players are going to annoy it at you quickly.
Well, apparently they also have...
but one of the things they did say though is the penalty is that there is kind of a sub penalty, like where that they can figure out what you don't know by how you guess.
Yeah.
Which also can affect you, but it's like there's no mechanic penalty for guessing.
Yeah. And apparently they do have a advanced variant where you have top secret tokens and stuff like that, which I don't know how that works.
And there's also a 2-player variant.
Yeah, and you're supposed to be able to play in about half an hour, which is nice. I mean, it's Clue without the board game, to a good degree.
It's Clue without the board, you mean?
Yeah, without the board. Yeah, it's really small, simple amount of cards, and like it is $30, but you have the little cardboard stands and all this stuff too, and that they always add like stuff with that, and cardboard tokens, more than just the cards. But it's not a lot to the game overall if you just look at it anyway.
And apparently, at the reason the game's called 13 Clues is because there's 13 pieces of information unknown to you at the start of the game.
Oh yeah.
Oh. Ooh.
Which is apparently more into like the meta of the game, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool. I do think, like, of all the detective variants, I'm liking this one a lot more. Because they never say you're you're Sherlock Holmes. They're like, no, you're a master detective. And I think I've had my complaints about, people love to do Sherlock games because we had like 1 billion of them last year, and then we haven't seen any for like half a year. Like, at the beginning of last year, there was like 10.
There were. Yeah, there were.
There's a lot of them. I'm probably overestimating, but there was still way too many.
Holmes.
There was Sherlock Holmes.
But,
it was Jack the Ripper and Sherlock Holmes up the wazoo last year.
Stop putting them up your wazoo.
This one I like a little better because it's not... It's very general, which is nice. There's no like specific details like Sherlock Holmes or solving Jack the Ripper's case. Oh, sorry. And also, it's like it captures some of that essence of definitely games like Clue too, while adding new levels to it, which I like a lot.
Well, I also know you love Clue.
Oh yeah, I love Clue. Clue's, or if you're part of a European artist, Cluedo is one of my old-time favorites. It's a classic game, and I love it a lot.
It's been a long time since I've played Clue.
Yes. I feel like
didn't they, in more recent, did they update the characters and stuff too? They got rid of some old ones?
They have had multiple updates. I actually saw someone do a review on that, and there's been a weird number of updates about Clue over the years, and various versions of it. So, I mean, they have I liked playing, Master Detective, or there was like Clue the Museum Caper, which was really different, but it was a variant on Clue, and I had it.
Give me just a moment, gentlemen. You can talking. I just have to do something real quick.
Sure. So I mean, it's definitely taking the better parts of Clue and not making it too crazy, and just adding a little bit more detective-y work, which I do like part of it too. Good detective game. Well, it seems like it is. I'm gonna say that. Having not like sat down and played it and only like read up on it and read some of the rules, we don't know for sure. So, all right, and 2 to 6 players. Cool. Yeah. Anything else about the rules? I have to see. Yeah.
I can think of.
Nope. And it's basically, again, like as Joe said, there's a variant for 2 players, but it's made for normally 3+, traditionally. And it's two pages of rules. So it is definitely a simple game because 2 pages is not bad for a rule book. Judging like what was it? I was pulling some rule book out the other day, and it was like 10 pages, and I'm like, yep. So I don't mind a complex game, but there's always something about a simpler game that I do enjoy. Anyway. All right. I think that's pretty good for 13 clues. Why don't we move on to my last topic I wanted to cover? And this is one that, I fortunately, I have to say, I am not as experienced as. I do talk about it in Gathering the Roll. But the fact is, my experience with Pokemon, the trading card game, goes back to its original couple of sets. I tried it out in the first couple of sets. I think I went through Jungle. I might have done a little bit of the Team Rocket cards, and then I gave up on it and went back to Magic. I just noticed this was sitting down next to me the other day because I haven't put it away again, but the binder with them in it.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Where did I put my binder? Gosh dang it. Oh, I need to find that.
And I got all the Japanese ones in the back, a bunch of Japanese ones in the back. Japanese cards. Anyway, getting into it, I've really noticed as of late, because they have been coming out with more sets, more boosters and things like that, that they're really focusing on mimicking with the games. Now, again, Pokemon the games, they're still coming out with them. We had Sun and Moon recently, and Sun and Moon was a big one. So I can understand capitalizing on Sun and Moon would be not a bad idea marketing-wise. But when we kind of reflect upon it, it looks as if, like, when I'm sort of looking back a little bit, they more generally do that. They sort of capitalize on the game and stick with it and kind of keep some of the themes of it. While if you look at some of the original sets, they were more, well, original. And I think it's, rather than talk about the actual sets and the cards and stuff, because again, not familiar with it in the newest iterations. There's a lot of crazy crap that's gone on. It's sort of like with, Yu-Gi-Oh! Card Fight, they have gotten more complex. Good for them. But I think the entire thing is like, now, should they stick with it? Just mimic the games and stuff? Like, the anime does that too, and it does fine, but...
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, you brought this up, and I actually did some digging for fun. I don't know why, I just decided to look around. And I figured out why this is probably the case, why the originals didn't, but the ones now do. Mm-hmm. So, we all know that chronologically, the games came first.
Yeah.
Then the card game, then the mangas. Mm-hmm. But the original card game was put on Wizards of the Coast to develop.
Yeah.
In 2003, that's when Pokemon took it back under their own control. So originally, Wizards of the Coast was on branding and selling them and doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
Using the license that they got for it. And so that's probably why now they, but even so, I think the now versions, it's like the games came first and they paid tribute to that.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of like an interesting little tidbit that I think is part of the reason that's like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like they sort of switched gears when the Pokemon Company took it over, because then, like, the third generation, the first set they came out with was Ruby and Sapphire. And granted, they had a couple of ones that were, like, still some of their own names, but still sort of in that Ruby and Sapphire grooves, because they have, like Hidden Legends, but then Fire Reef, Emerald, and they had this entire EX series. And then they had, okay, so the third generation of sets had a little bit of its original, and then as soon as I see fourth generation, they're all Diamond and Pearl until they get to Platinum, and then Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and then
Platinum, yeah.
And then they had Platinum. I think was there a Platinum game?
There was a Platinum game,
and then they have a single one here that is called Call of the Legends, which is not connected with it. Mm-hmm. And then the fifth generation's Black and White, and they did all Black and White. And then sixth generation have X and Y, and based around that, and now I guess their 7th, which is Sun and Moon.
Mm-hmm.
Which, wow, I did not realize, like, you know, it comes, yeah, they basically, you know, the last one that wasn't technically based on that was Call of the Legends. Back in, I don't know what year it was, but, well, back in their fourth generation sets. So that's the last one they've done, and I don't know. You know, it's...
So, it doesn't bother me that much, because they're basically playing off what is their most popular thing, which is the games, the video games. And so, kind of to say, this is the new generation that's along with this generation, is how it separates it. I don't think it's a big deal. I do agree it would be more interesting if they, like, found a way to, like, say, and honestly, maybe that's what this is because it says Sun and Moon Ultra Prism. Mm-hmm. What it's fully called.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of hard to
Ultra Prism, I think, is the latest one out. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like they kind of use it to kind of get across the generation.
Yeah.
But it is kind of like part of the title.
And again, it's sort of like they do focus on the setting too, it seems like. Because I saw some gameplay of people doing Sun and Moon, so it's sort of like, okay, it's the low end stuff, you know, and so I know a little bit of it, more than I knew of the past, like, 4 generations of Pokemon, you know. Mm. But again, it's like, this one was more interesting than the last, and it was kind of like, I was vaguely interested in it, but I did not have the hardware to play it. Sorry, Nintendo, I do not have your portable system.
I have the DS. Well, actually, sorry. I do have the 3DS, but not like the 3DS upgrade one, but makes it hard to play some of the newer stuff. In fact, can you even play? I think there's some of the newer stuff you can't even play without the upgraded version. But I like. Honestly, for me, I usually get Nintendo's portable systems because they are fun to do when you're out and about. I'm just not out and about very much, so I just don't see a reason for them.
I got them for a lot of years. I think the last one I got was unfortunately just a Game Boy Advance.
Well, the last one I got was the 3DS. So
yeah, when they switched to their dual screens, they got beyond me, unfortunately. And then I had a PSP, but the PSP I just used as a video watching device. So. And if I really want to do that now, I can load the same videos I would watch on my PSP onto my phone now. So, I mean, I've evolved beyond that technology.
Yeah.
You know, my PSP, it went away, the dinosaurs, and, you know, so. But,
yeah, I mean, I think it is mainly because they try and brand their games more than anything else.
Yeah, and branding, again, I have nothing against the branding. And I agree with you. The branding is fine. It's not a bad thing to do, and it probably does draw more people into, like, oh, you know, maybe I want to return to this. I liked Sun and Moon. Maybe it's a good excuse to, like, come popping back into the game. You know, into the card game if they tried it or not. But again, I feel like those early times had more originality, you know, and I liked the originality of it. They had some interesting ones there. And I kind of miss that a little bit, you know. Granted, I never played past the first generation, so I didn't even play to the end of the first generation. So, you know, that was back in like 2000s or 2000, I think.
Yeah,
would have been my last times. So
yeah, are you sure it wasn't 2001? Might have been a Space Odyssey.
Nah, not this time.
But yeah, I don't have a problem with it merely because the history is that the games came first.
Well, yeah.
Board game came first, or no, board game. Video game came first.
And I don't really, on the long run, have a problem with it. I think it's my entire thought pattern is, you know, it's fine if you want to do that. It is a level of marketing, and marketing is fine. But I would like to see, you know, even amongst the marketing, maybe a couple more, you know, like not Sun and Moon branded things, you know, just to get a little more variety. We don't have to have like two, like, you know, granted, I don't purchase them, you know, I'm not doing it. But you have to consider that, like, the last one was, like, 2.5 years of X and Y game, or, like, based things, which had stuff based around the games. Does it have to be, like, 2.5 years of, you know, all sets based around, you know, the Sun and Moon game?
Yeah. And, I mean, this isn't the first... Like, they've actually had 2 editions so far of Sun and Moon. They have Sun and Moon Crimson Invasion, and then Sun and Moon Ultra Prism.
Well, the Ultra Prism just came out, and they have had Guardians Rising and Burning Shadows technically came out with a couple new things, too.
So I'm looking at the products, so it's just kind of like, I don't see...
I'm looking at the Wikipedia for it right now.
All I have to say is stop playing with your pocket monster.
Never.
Okay.
I think some of them are differences between Ultra Prism.
I'll be honest. The day they make a gold and silver remake again, I'll probably buy their system because that is the best.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I loved gold and silver.
Because like. Blue and Red, I was too young to really understand it. I played it, but it was like, it was so over my head that I basically was just selecting moves and pressing buttons. Gold and Silver was the first one I was like old enough to really understand, like, and figure things out. Although the one thing I didn't realize was that you could retrain moves or delete the move deleters, because I accidentally taught my Feraligatr all HMs, and then I'm like, how do I fix this? And I eventually decided that I have to restart to fix it.
I remember because I had I had a Game Boy Advance and a Game Boy Color up until...
there's Burning Shadows, yeah.
Up until Gold and Silver, I could still trade between my own games because I had both of them. And I used that to get, like, everything. I'm like, I'm trading with myself!
Oh, I have every game up until X and Y, or not X and Y, until... No, I have Black and White 2, but not... No, I have Black 1, White 2, something like that. And then I have, I only have X, I haven't gotten Sun and Moon. I actually have a very solid collection, which I would like to finish expanding, but...
Well, again, if I would have a way of playing it that would be decently, I'm not going to purchase a Game Boy now, but Sun and Moon actually looked interesting to me as, like, it seemed like it captured the original spirit a lot more than some of the other ones, and I like that, that a little bit of the original spirit of why I liked the first game and Gold and Silver and stuff, but again, it's this is a weird kind of concept because it is like it's the discussion of like marketing versus originality. Again, neither are bad. I'm just saying my thing is, can we see a little bit of both? Just a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like I like it when Magic the Gathering revisits the place they've already been, but I also love it when they show us somewhere new. That's fine. A little balance of those is fun. Let's,
mm-hmm.
A little more balance in your game. as because I do go through these, like, and talk about them a little bit every time on a Tuesday. I would like to see a little bit more originality,
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to all be their version of Alolan. They don't have to be all their version of Hawaii. Because it really is.
Alolan.
I'm gonna keep pronouncing it incorrectly every time I know it. I'm just gonna keep
It's Alolan without the D. Alolan.
Alolan. Yeah. I butcher stuff all the time. I butcher people's names. Come on. Anyway. All right. I guess, Joe, you really don't want to... Do you want to add yourself in on this concept?
I have nothing to say about Pokemon at all.
Well, again, we were talking a little bit more general, too, just like the idea of, using some pre-existing material versus being originality, it's like... Because they do a lot of games based on material, and what, it's like... It's like the Star Trek CCG. They did stuff based on some of the shows, and they didn't do a lot of their own originality stuff. Would you have liked to have seen that all based on the shows? That's kind of things like that kind of concept.
And the one thing about also, so there's two things here though too. With Magic the Gathering, they don't have anything it's based off of except for their own world, which they've created, which they can add to and take away from it.
Yeah.
Whatever, their own leisure. Like a lot of these other things though, like are based off games. Now, to be fair, or animes or games or other things. To be fair, Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't brand the same. They don't say Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's pack. They don't do that. But
Yu-Gi-Oh's gotten to this weird point in time, and same with Cardfight Vanguard. I feel like both of them. I'm not sure which comes first anymore. If it's the anime or the card game, it's like the chicken and the egg.
I think the anime did come first for Yu-Gi-Oh! I could look this up real fast.
Oh, no, I think it did come first originally. But, like, nowadays, where they have, like, weird mechanics in the... new mechanics in the game, does that come before the new mechanics in the show?
I don't think it matters. I think they both feed off each other.
I know.
I'll be honest, because... sometimes they use features from the game. Sometimes the show uses features from the game. Sometimes make up their own rules. Sometimes the rules in the game are different than the rules in the show. They kind of are just reference each other rather than actually being each other. At least for Yu-Gi-Oh!
I think it's the same for Cardfight Vanguard too. Again, because I only saw some of the anime. I didn't actually try the actual game. So it's like it was surprised me to learn. It was like it surprised me for a couple of seconds, and then it didn't surprise me that it was an actual card game too.
Yeah.
I'm like it's an actual. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Money.
Yeah, and like the thing about Pokemon is they don't go outside their source material. There are not Pokemon in the Pokemon card game that are not Pokemon in the game.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit different for Pokemon. Pokemon sticks very heavily to their source material.
Which I don't mind, but maybe, come up with, something else. Like, the original ones is we're visiting the jungle with Pokemon, or, we're looking at, fossils and rock types and stuff, sets more like that, or,
Yeah.
Something that would, we can focus on the world you've built, but just, how about over there? Instead of where all the games are.
Actually, something that could be kind of fun, too, is if they did kind of because the Alolan is, broken up into islands.
Yeah.
What if they did island themes? That would have been cool.
Yeah, that would be actually really cool. Of the various islands? No, that would have been pretty awesome.
Yeah.
There are things I feel like they could have done better, but they love their crazy names, it seems. So it's always like Sun and Moon, Ultra Prism, whoop!
Everyone wondered where they were going to go after Diamond and Pearl and Black and White, and they're like, what's next? And they actually went X and Y. You're like, okay, fine. It's like
we went weird last time. We're just going Sun and Moon. It's good. It's good.
Finally, not a color.
Yeah, finally not a color.
X and Y was their first not color game, and then they went Sun and Moon after that.
Well, it's a lot of them are they're very conceptual, and they were we're doing actual stuff now. So I don't know where they're going to go next with it. When we'll see them go next with it, how long it's going to be anyway. So that's a different conundrum of a story anyway.
Pokemon, life and death.
Yeah, I've been Pokemon.
That sounds like a personal problem.
It really does.
I told you should stop playing with your pocket monsters.
Never. All right. Why don't we dive into our next segment? Those are our regular segments, of course, and we'll start with our Kickstarter Corner. So, unfortunately, I don't know if you two saw or heard that when I recorded Gathering the Roll this week, my microphone stopped working at the beginning.
Oh.
And no one said anything until the very end. So I have
sometimes there's just certain people around.
Yeah, or people are just people stop by and then leave or something.
It did cut out the other day with something else, didn't it?
It did. when I was playing Night in the Woods last time, or on Tuesday, it cut out for part of it.
Yeah.
I haven't had problems
there
since then, but it was like just weirdness.
Fun.
Anyway,
that's why there wasn't anything then. That's why it makes sense. Okay.
That's why I didn't have anything to help you guys with. So yeah.
It's fine. I actually don't look at your thing anymore anyway. I just
That's fine. Finding your own thing is fine. But so, what do you guys got for me this week?
You want to go first, Joe, or should I?
I can go first if you want.
Okay.
I have Last Stand, the board game.
Ooh.
Let me copy and paste. So this one seems interesting. The whole point of it is to get close to losing to get more powerful so you can come back to win.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called a Last Stand, a board game where you lose power, where your power grows as you lose. It's mainly card and dice, and you attack people. You start with a certain amount of cards in your hand and certain amount of cards in a deck in front of you that you build out into piles. And you have to play cards to draw more cards, but if you at the end of the round, if there's no cards left on the board in front of you, you lose. And you can have as many cards in your hand as you want.
Okay.
So, and you attack people. So it's weird because it's like the more cards you play, the more powerful you are, but at the same time, you're hurting yourself by going through your cards more.
Yeah.
Its goal has been met. It was only $35,045. Actually, no, wait. No, it hasn't been met. Pledge to the goal is it was a $10,000 goal. I'm reading it backwards. And they made $35,045.
So they've hit their goal.
Yeah, they only have 18 hours left to go anyway, so it's good that they hit their goal.
So see this one soon if you haven't.
Yes, they've unlocked a few things, it looks like. But it just seemed like an interesting turn for a game that, you kind of have to hurt yourself to come back to win.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
And they do have the full downloadable rules that you can look at. I'm trying to each character has its own specialties based off what you roll in the dice and what happens.
Cool.
So it seemed like an interesting game. The artwork's kind of a little kooky, but I think it's cute.
Yeah. Neat. All right, cool. So that's Last Stand. That's awesome. Okay. Wyrm, how about you? What you got?
So I found a game called Dystopia. Sorry. The AN is when you look at anyway. But Dystopia is a very interesting game. It's from what I can tell, it seems almost like a mix between Lords of Waterdeep and Lords of Vegas.
Okay.
Lords of Vegas Deep.
Yes. And you basically have your characters. They have special powers. And you also have secret objectives, which you need to complete. And your goal is to use your agents to take control of areas and score points by doing that. And it's like, yeah, some of these powers let you, so there are dice on the board, and like when you take over an area, you take the dice, which allows you to, which is like, determines how many points you score. There's different colored dice in different areas based on, and those score different points. And some powers let you re-roll a dice, or flip a die or do something else. And so there are so it's kind of interesting because they have a bunch of different character options, which you can choose from, a bunch of different secret objectives, which are dealt randomly. And then you, in the end, you count it all up and score and see who won. And it's a game that consists of only 6 rounds, where each player, puts one agent down, and once you have all 6 agents gone, it's round's over, or the game's over. And where did it say? Did it say playtime? Sorry, I'm just trying to see.
20 to 30 minutes, 2 to 4 players.
Yeah, 20 to 30 minutes. So I remember it wasn't very long. So yeah, it's a pretty. Oh, there it is. Yeah. It's actually it's a pretty quick game, which is nice, and it looks very interesting. It's just a couple rounds. You have to very fast paced, and a lot to keep track of, but it seems pretty straightforward and simple as well.
Oh, very cool.
From Sweden. It's those Swedish dollars, which are always really large, and I look at them and I'm like, oh.
I saw it and I'm like, 290 to get international. Oh wait, that's $35. Never mind.
Yeah, well, it's like 200,000 Swedish, whatever they are, is $25,000 US. So it's like, oh, okay, which is it's got a couple stretch goals left to do. Cool.
Yep.
Awesome. That does look
like stretch goals, but they are fully funded.
Yeah, it does definitely look like a little interesting kind of combination of that type of gameplay. Neat.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I had a tough choice between a few. I do want to give a shout out to Dreamscape Loruna because I totally saw you guys at PAX Unplugged. I'm not going to talk about you because you were more of a miniatures game, and I'm not huge on miniatures game all the time, but kudos to you. See you up in Kickstarter. Also want to give a shout out to the Little Game Master, which is technically a book based on being a DM. And have your friends be like, it's all about being a role player, like a little children's book. So if you want to introduce your kids to role playing, it's funded and up on Kickstarter. So for you nerds out there that are parents now, basically,
our generation is this next generation of parents are becoming progressively nerdier.
Yeah, God, yeah, it's gonna. I don't know where it's gonna go after this one. Crazy levels. Anyway,
nerds.
So there was a couple other interesting ones, but I guess I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about one, and then I want to dive into another. The one I want to kind of talk about is Keyring Rpg, which is apparently which is close to being funded. 8 days to go. It's all about running a role-playing game on a keyring. It's actually little miniature cards that you have to set some things. So it's a very tiny game, and it's kind of weird and interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was why I thought that one was kind of a really interesting one. So you can carry around, your book in your pocket almost of everything you need for it. But the one I want to talk about, only because my mom loves the source material, is A Good Society, a Jane Austen role-playing game.
Oh, God.
It's been funded with 23 days to go. It's been funded by a lot. They were only looking for $3,000 US, and they're at 52,000. So people wanted it. This is the weirdest role-playing game I've seen in a while, but it makes sense for what the source material is. That's the thing. It's all about having some romance, scandal, and manners. It's basically high society, the role-playing game. Or, I'm sorry, European high society, the role-playing game. So it's it's interesting that, what the heck are you doing in it? It's you're making a character, you're having family background and stuff, but apparently there's also you can sabotage your opponents, and ruined their reputations, create rumors and scandal.
As long as there are adaptations for Pride and Prejudice and Zombies and other spin-offs like that, I'm totally down.
I'm sure you could add them in if they haven't gotten them now. I haven't seen. I have to check up on their stretch goals because they've probably got a bunch of them by now.
I can't remember who really likes Jane Austen in my family.
Oh, my
sister does, but I know my sister's friend really does.
Oh my God! They have a LARP version that they're adding in on it. God. I I can see people LARPing things like that.
Hold
no.
it,
Oh, unlocked is Pride and Prejudice and question mark.
Wait, what? Hold on.
We will hack our own game and bring you Pride, Prejudice, and whatever crazy things you want. Vampires, werewolves, aliens, pirates, anthropomorphic animals. It's at 50,000 they unlock that.
Oh gosh, that's wonderful.
Pride and Prejudice and Cthulhu.
You know, they take suggestions from backers.
Nice.
Wow, that's I'm guessing they're gonna show off one with the books, and then you could do whatever you want. Like it'll give you an idea of how to do any of the other ones, you know, kind of thing. So, yeah. So they do have that. I mean, it's a weird little kind of role playing game because it's actual pure role playing. Really, I'm sure you'll have a character, you'll have some roles, but I'm sorry, the kind of game like this, you're gonna be role-playing more than a lot of other games, you know? So this is, like, the actual, like, non-mechanical side person's, like, dream for something, you know?
God.
And that's one of those weird things about it that I thought was interesting to talk about. It's a collaborative tabletop one, you know? It's really weird. It's Jane Austen / Pride and Prejudice, the role playing game, and good for them that they're funded. You know, it seems like something people want to try out a little bit because it's something very different, and you know that's what it is. They've managed to find something very interesting and different. As much as we talk about a lot of these role playing games, this one is.
I found the link.
This one
Yes.
is really different.
I just found it too.
Let me. I think.
We already posted it.
Okay, thank you. I forgot to do that. So, anyway, thanks Australians, because it's someone in Sydney, Australia is bringing us this. So it's got 23 days to go. It's working on those high-end stretch goals right now. So, and, you know, they've got their of zombies, of vampires, of whatever, you know, Pride and Prejudice that they're going to be doing. So if that's what you really want to do as part of this entire thing, then maybe you want to check it out. Cool. And for $5 you get the PDF. I'll check your link to see if it's the same.
The right thing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's right.
It is correct. Yep. And for $5 you can get $5 US you can get the PDF and quick start guide.
Also, they did reach their Pride and Prejudice and question mark goal.
Yep.
Estimated delivery is in October.
Yeah. For $17 you get all the PDFs too. So I mean that's good.
Yeah.
That's actually not a bad price for having a crap ton of stuff. So anyway. Alright, why don't we move on, though, because we have more segments we want to handle, and our next upcoming segment is, of course, Our Week in Tabletop, where we talk about what we did in the course of our tabletop adventures this week. Why don't we start with Joe this time, because we started with Wyrm last time.
Well, I don't have a lot other than last Saturday, which I lost horribly all night.
I mean, it happens.
Trying to remember everything we played. We did what?
Well, you didn't lose horribly all the time because we did the team-based one, the firefighter one that Poirier.
Oh yeah, that
has.
we won. That we won. Okay, I've had a horrible losing streak in single player, not single player,
I mean,
but
like
in most
Flux,
of the games that weren't team based.
Flux, I forget who won, but I know it wasn't me and you.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
The firefighter one, which is what, Flashpoint?
Yeah, Flashpoint. I was forgetting his name.
We kicked butt in.
We kicked
butt.
mean,
the first time we almost died.
Yeah, and the second time we did rolls, and we kicked butt on rolls.
Yeah, I mean, we not only saved every single person, but we put out the entire fire with minimal structural damage.
Yes. we reached the point in time where we're like, it's a matter of... We just stopped the game because we're like, we're fighting more fires than are being created. It's a matter of time before everything's put out.
No, we rolled it out.
I thought we didn't roll it out then.
No, we did roll it out.
I couldn't remember.
No, we rolled that. We were going to stop, and then we ended up just rolling it out just to see. And yeah, we put out all the fire and smoke.
So there shouldn't be any more, but then of course another fire storm. No, I mean it's like spontaneous combustion.
Yes, but at that point, I think we could just like, okay, out. Well, the rolls we got were really useful and combined well together. You know, I had the captain, which I could move someone up to 2 spaces. You had the actual fire expert.
Yeah, I was putting out fires. Poirier was good at grabbing people and cutting down walls.
And Hana had a person who just had extra movement.
Yeah.
She could zip around the board quick.
Mm-hmm. So it ended up being pretty good. Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that was me because I wasn't able to join on Monday.
Okay. Wyrm, how about your week in gaming before we get to my section of it? I guess I can handle Wednesday if you want me to or not. It's up to you.
Yeah. Let's see. I did some more Curse of Strahd with some of my friends. It was a very short game because it was the day of the Super Bowl, and I had promised to help my mom out with stuff, so it's like we cut it short. But it was it basically just meandered around a little bit, grabbed a quest objective or 2 quest objectives in an attempt to leave the castle one more time, and come back to finish Strahd off. But we'll see how that goes because.
Yes.
It's like they're gonna wait. It's like, okay.
Strahd.
Yeah.
Yeah. Strahd.
Yeah, it was
Everyone's favorite vampire.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So the next one should actually be the last one, I assume.
Ooh.
Which will be not this Sunday, but the Sunday after, because this Sunday I'm busy.
Yes.
On.
All right. Anything else?
I'll let you handle Wednesday.
Okay. God, I noticed my niece left something in here when she stopped by earlier. Just like a My Little Pony with like a freaking comb or something stuck in its tail. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh my gosh, why does that ring a bell? It's like my sister had a pet, like a toy like that or something, like way back in the day. Yeah. It's like it just. I got flashbacks to my childhood. Anyway, sorry.
I remember she came in combing something. I didn't realize it was a small pony, but now it's like over there with its rainbow hair. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. Okay, so yeah, I played games with Joe. I think the next thing, we didn't do any tabletop stuff on Monday. We did next on Wednesday, I think was the next time I played some. And Thursday. We can't forget about Thursday, too. You forgot about Thursday, Wyrm.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We played Bessem, Full Metal Alchemist. That's fun.
Yep. But I'll do Wednesday first, and if you want to handle Thursday a little bit,
okay.
Since you were the players. Wednesday, we got to go on more amazing adventures in Bastion Frontier as the Boat Associates, of course, with the greatest team name ever. Where we were back in town, and we did such great things as have this nice tea party with me, and Nowhere, and the Mrs. Bastion, whose name I never remember. Honora. And we got Tiva Bat, and then we what did we do then? Did we start a quest line?
If you wanna remember it, it's like Aurora, but with an N instead of an R.
Honora. Yeah. There was the attack by some kind of were creature, and then the person became one and attacked people in town and got murdered, and then we encountered it out in the wild before we were about to get into a fight, and that's where we ended. And now I'm forgetting why we left. Oh, to meet up with Ninka. Yes, man, I'm like forgetful today, and then I remember. It's like, what are we doing? Oh, that's what we were doing. Yeah. So that was our amazing adventures, and it was fun because, as usual, Tools is the greatest character of them all. And also the worst character of them all. Anyway, and then we played Bessem on Thursday. If you want to handle that a little bit, Wyrm.
Yeah, so that was fun. Our characters both had just completed the State Alchemy trial, and we got sent on our first mission, effectively. And we had to find out what was going on with this one town. And upon investigation, we there was a rebellion kind of starting-ish, supported by the country to the south, which was start with an A. Orego, yeah. And they were supplying weapons and stuff in hopes of starting a rebellion. And from there, we stumbled upon a meeting between the rebels and the Orego operative, I guess you could say. And he apparently, we found out right before we ended the session, apparently he is a chimera. And so, not sure what that means, because that is a thing specific to Central.
Anestra. Your home country, yes.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've watched FMA, and I don't remember the names.
That is fine. I did a bunch of, I had gone through the bunch of research this week just to remember all the terms and stuff and get all the good names and things. It's sort of
yeah.
No, it was fun. And I think it'll be 2 weeks before we play, because I think Tiv can't play next week.
Tiv can't play this Thursday, so we're gonna have to skip. He's covering for a friend who had some crap happen, and
it happens.
Yep.
Good times, though. Good times. All right, why don't we move on to our last segment for the day, Consult the Table. So this is the final segment where those of you who are in our chat or have left us messages on various media sources can give us questions about the tabletop world, any kind of thing about any of the stuff we've been talking about, or anything that you might want to do. So, I will check our amazing and fantastic Yahoo site, discussingtabletop@yahoo.com, to see if anybody messages there. If not, you can always leave a message there. You can always leave a message with any of us. You could leave a message on this show when I put it up on YouTube. You can tell us now if you have a question now. But whatever source you have, you can email us to basically ask us. And nothing on the Yahoo. So that's fine by me. Any other takers in chat there, does it look like, while I'm doing this?
You can ask us anything: how to deal with a problematic player, how to run a game, how to tips on board game design. I don't know.
Yep. Okay. So I think that's probably it for our questions for the day. No questions right now. We get them occasionally, but not very often.
We're still growing.
Yeah, we're still growing. Anyway, so that's it for this week. Yet another week finished up. Thank you once again to Joe and Wyrm for joining me for this amazing adventures where we got to talk about a lot of cool tabletop stuff. Why don't you guys kind of let me know about information about you, pimp yourselves out, since I do that all the time anyway. Wyrm, we'll start with you as usual.
Yes, so I am Diamond Wyrm. You can find me on my channel, twitch.tv/DiamondWyrm. And if you want, you can follow me on Twitter @DiamondWyrm. And I have a Discord. You can find a link to that on my channel. My Twitch channel, Edie. And I also have a Patreon. You can donate, you can subscribe, follow. Yeah. I should start streaming more often. I moved recently, so I haven't been streaming all that much the past couple weeks. But I should start. My planned schedule is to start streaming Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 4 o'clock Pacific time. And so that should start happening in a week or so.
Cool.
Oh, also, Amber City changing the Lost RPG on my channel at 4 o'clock PST. So in 5 hours, about 4 or 5 hours.
Yep.
4 hours, 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Joe.
As usual, I pimp you.
Of course. Of course. Yep. So I guess the two of us will be back. Actually, the three of us will be back on Monday, hopefully, at our normal time for some more tabletop gaming as it is now until we can get a role-playing game established there. Me, Wyrm, and Tiv will be back on Thursdays, not this week, but the upcoming week for Bessem. Let's see here. We'll be back next week for more Discussing Tabletop, same time, same place, same folks, unless we sometimes get guests. Otherwise, I'll be back probably I don't know exactly when I'm going to be back, other than morning for Monday morning, because I should either stream a little bit more this afternoon or tomorrow evening, because I probably won't be around for the morning stream tomorrow, though I normally stream in mornings. So I unfortunately am going to my grandmother's tomorrow, so early leaving. Earlier than I stream. Which does not help. My morning streams are 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then in the afternoon for our gaming, it'll be 7 p.m. On Monday for all of us playing some tabletop games together. So those are the Monday streams, and I'll probably will stream something on Sunday evening, just not sure with who, with what, or when exactly. So I'll try. I'm very bad at announcing way ahead of time lately on Twitter or Discord when I'm going to do something, and I should get back to doing that a little better again, to announce my stream times ahead of time. But you can always watch on the Twitter or Discord. I also have my YouTube side, the Dracovin Empire. That's a location you can get to see any of the VODs you've missed, anything like that. You can also check us out. I've got the Discord, as I said, down below for myself. Patreon for extra support, and you can always again follow, subscribe on the various channels for support. But thank you though. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you're gonna have a great rest of the day. If I do end up deciding and or having enough time to get a little extra streaming in, I'll try to announce it a little ahead of time and let you guys know. Otherwise, I'll be back probably sometime tomorrow or at least Monday. And we'll all be back next week on Monday and then Saturday. So, bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.